Arg, mateys. Hey y'all, it's me, Manira, and I am back with a new video, finally. I am so sorry that it has been like 5 months now since my last video. If you follow me or are friends with me on any of my social medias, you would know that I have been having some issues, thus an eye patch. Ever since my surgery in January, my weight loss surgery, I have had several issues. I am good now besides this little ordeal, but let me tell you, I was not good like a month ago. So let's get into the story. Okay, so I had my surgery on January 14th, 2020, obviously. And after that, I was struggling with food, like just food in general. The idea, the thought of food was just not vibing with me. My last video was about that whole situation, about how I felt about food in general. Well, I was feeling the same way kind of about liquids in general as well. So I was not drinking as much as I should have been drinking. I still don't drink as much as I should be, but I'm better than I was. So that ended up biting me in the butt because one day I woke up and was in severe pain. Severe pain. I thought that it was a UTI maybe from just being dehydrated and all that stuff. But the pain was just like pain that I had never felt in my life before. So I called my mom crying. I'm like, I need to go to the hospital. Dalton wasn't home and like I needed to go. So my mom takes me to the hospital. Dalton ends up coming to the hospital as well. They find out that I had kidney stones, like 2 little small kidney stones. They were not very big at all, but they were causing so much pain. And I was also severely dehydrated. Who would have thought? They ended up giving me pain medicine and antibiotics. They set up an appointment with a urologist for me, and I saw the urologist. It was getting better. It wasn't like as much pain, but the color of, was still like pretty sketchy. With the kidney stones, they told me that I could have nausea and vomiting, which I had started. And I had my appointment, my first like follow-up appointment with my surgeon after my gastric sleeve. So I went and saw him, and he asked me if I was having like any nausea, throwing up, and I told him yes, but I also told him that I had kidney stones at that moment in time. So they kind of just brushed it off as like being caused by the kidney stones, which is what everybody thought. Well, the kidney stones went away, and the vomiting and nausea did not go away, and it just kept getting worse. So after that, I was not eating, was not drinking anything, because anything that I took came right back up. Like, I couldn't take medication. They kept trying to give me medicine to help my vomiting and nausea, and I'm like, are you all not understanding me when I say I cannot keep anything down? Meaning I could not even take a drink of water without it coming back up. It was disgusting. I had to carry a bowl around with me everywhere. Me and Dalton practically moved back in with my parents because, yeah, I just couldn't. Like, there was no way. Finally, my mom gets sick and tired of the whole situation, ends up calling my surgeon's office, and they tell me to go to the general hospital emergency room. So we go, and obviously no one is allowed in with me because, the coronavirus. So I go in there by myself. They watch me. They do an ultrasound to check my gallbladder, since that's what they wanted to check, and also I got fluids because I was severely dehydrated. Now they thought that was the only issue. Yes, that was an issue, but because I literally couldn't eat or drink anything. So I needed to really find the problem, like the core problem. So they were thinking maybe the gallbladder, which is what my doctor had told them to check for. So they did an ultrasound, and apparently that ultrasound was hunky-dory, perfectly fine, and nothing was wrong there. Yeah. Wrong. But, apparently they were right. So they ended up just sending me on my way. They give me medicine that I can't take. So I tried taking the medicines. They constantly just keep coming back up. Nothing changes, nothing gets better. Like, they try to tell me a bunch of stuff over the phone to do because, like, they really didn't want you coming into the office or whatever because of the corona. But nothing was getting better. So finally, my mom, again, is like, you need to do something. So I finally set up an appointment to go see my surgeon. I go see him, and he sets up an endoscopy to, like, check down in my stomach since he assumes that nothing's wrong with my gallbladder. So an endoscopy is just where they go down your throat with a camera thing, and they look in your stomach. Just make sure there's no, like, leaks or, like, other stuff. So we did that, and by the way, I woke up during that, and it was, like, really uncomfortable, and I remembered it because a lot of people sometimes wake up and don't remember it, and I remembered it, and, like, I was, like, suffocating, and I could just remember him, like, quickly yanking the camera out, and I'm like, but I fell back asleep again, but then I woke back up, and I remembered the feeling, and it was not good. But anyway, they ended up finding nothing in there. There was, like, irritation from where, like, the only thing that was in my stomach was acid. Like, literally, there was just acid eating away at my stomach, and that was it. So, finally, he sets up a HydroScan, and that is where they, like, deeply look inside your body at a specific thing. So, they were going to target my gallbladder to look at my gallbladder to see if something was up with it. So, I had my appointment for my HydroScan, and that was on a Friday. Well, that Thursday, my urine was literally red brown with, like, stuff in it, and it was really bad. TMI, sorry. So my mom was like, this is not normal, you're going to the hospital. So then I had to go to Taze Valley again to see what all that was about. And they kind of suspected that my gallbladder was doing something because I had, like, really off balances of something. I can't even remember what it was, but they were like, yeah, your, like, gallbladder is probably, like, screwed up, and they were going to do a HydroScan there, but then they realized that they couldn't do one, and it was just a big old mess because, like, corona messed everything up, so they couldn't do one there. And the doctor was like, well, since you have the thing tomorrow, just go to it and see what happens there. But they ended up finding out I had a UTI, basically just because, like, I wasn't cleaning my body, like, nothing was flushing out, so it was just, like, bacteria and crap getting all up in my business and everything else. So yeah, that's what happens when you don't drink water, but I couldn't help it. It was not my fault. So the next day I go to my HydroScan, or HydroScan, I think it's a HydroScan, something like that. I go to my scan, and I started kind of being, like, a little bit dizzy, and I had to, like, walk to my scan by myself, and I was just, like, kind of wobbling around and stuff. I hadn't really told, like, Dalton and my mom and dad, like, that I was already kind of, like, just not normal. It wasn't right. So I lay down, and that thing took, like, 2 hours. Like, you just lay there and for, like, 2 hours, and they just scan your body. So that's what I did. They ended up just being like, okay, bye. We'll give it to the doctor, and he'll get a hold of you sometime. Well, I didn't have time for that. My body did not have time for that, because by that night, Friday night, Dalton was in the bedroom with me, and he looked at this eye, which right now it should be kind of normal. I don't know what it's doing. I still see double with it, but I just keep it covered, and then I don't. I'll explain that more in a little bit. But this eye was going in, like, into my nose, and it was like, it just did not look right, and it looked scary and concerning. But anyway, Dalton's like, hold on just a second. So he walks into, like, I guess my mom and dad's bedroom, and is like, come here, Mom. So Mom comes back there, and they notice my eye is, like, whack. And so they're like, this is concerning. And I was waiting on my results for my HydroScan or whatever, because I had it done that day, but they couldn't get back to me that day because my doctor is not in his office on Fridays. Their offices are closed. So I just kind of dealt with it. My eye was wacky. I just kept it closed for, like, the next 2 days. Okay, so Sunday rolls around that week. So this is a day or two, like, I had my HydroScan Friday, and this is now Sunday. So Sunday, I can't move. I cannot move my body. I am so wore out. I can't move. I can't stand. I can't walk. Like, my vision is insane. It was not okay. I literally just felt like I was dying. And honestly, I was. Dalton ended up, don't tell him I told y'all, but he was like crying. He gets behind me in the bed and is like, I'm like leaned back into him like holding me. And he's crying back there. And I know he is because I can hear him sniffling. And he tried to tell me that he wasn't. But I could like literally feel his tears falling onto my shoulders. And so I'm like, yes, you are. Stop crying. But I just could not. And my mom was like, you need to go to the hospital. Do you need to go to the hospital? I just kept saying no because of the fact that, for one, they were supposed to get back to me the next day about my Hydroscan. And I was so tired of getting stuck because I had been like stuck with needles. I was getting tired of getting poked with needles because I had been in and out of the hospital for like weeks on and off, okay? So at this point, like, my mom realizes that they aren't getting me to the car. So she's like, do you want me to call an ambulance? And I keep saying no, like, this is embarrassing, because it was embarrassing. Like, I'm like 20 years old, almost 21 years old. I should not be literally unable to do anything. It was really, like, I felt embarrassed. She keeps asking, and I end up saying, I don't know. And my mom's like, well, then that's an answer. I'm calling 911. So she ends up calling an ambulance, and it takes them like 45 minutes to an hour to get there. At least that's what it felt like. And Dalton's just laying there holding me the entire time, just upset. And I'm like, I'm getting upset because now I'm embarrassed, and like, this just shouldn't be happening. So finally the ambulance guys get there. They're these like two grown, bigger men, and they come in and they're like checking me to make sure I hadn't had a stroke, because my mom and Dalton both kind of like thought I might have had a stroke because of like my eye and all that stuff. But they said I didn't have a stroke. Like, all my reflexes were good. Like, I could move everything. I just could not like walk or stand or like move by myself. Like, it was just weird. Like, I couldn't move my whole body parts, but I could like move my hands and like my feet and stuff. So yeah, but they finally like pretty much helped me get up and wobble barely over to the stretcher that was in the hallway, because they couldn't get it into the bedroom. They got it into the hall, and I got on it, and we left, and my mom stood there while they put like the IVs and stuff in me. They had to put it in my wrist. Okay, this is an important detail of this story. They put it in my wrist over here, which I still have like a little mark from. But I was not happy about that. But my mom stands there, and Dalton just like walks away because he's crying. And my mom's like, eh. And so finally we leave. It was the longest ambulance ride that I ever, well, I've only been in like an ambulance twice, and one I probably shouldn't remember, but it took a lot longer than a car ride does to Charleston, I'm telling you that. Because we decided to go to Charleston General, because that's where my surgeon was if I needed him, which I did end up needing him. So we didn't decide to go to the Valley, because if I had went to the Valley, they would have just had to transfer me to Charleston or whatever. Anyway, so I ended up going there, and it took forever, it felt like. And also, I was really uncomfortable because I was in like the middle of this, it was a big ambulance, so I was in the middle of this big ambulance and laying on this thing. But every time we hit a bump or like went like around a curve or something, I was like swaying and I felt like I was going to fall. Remind you, I'm in a gown. So I'm just in a gown. I have no bra. I have underwear, luckily. And I had my purse with my phone and my charger, and that was it. That's all I had. And, you know, I'm expecting to go and, like, this not take very long. I was hoping that, like, they would figure it out and I would be there, like, I mean, I kind of expected maybe a night, but it was a whole ordeal. So anyway, we get there, we get into the emergency room. They're asking me a bunch of questions. I'm, like, barely even there because my brain's just like, no. My brain had done left the chat. It done left the building like Elvis, okay? So the ambulance guys end up just telling them all my information and everything that they had pretty much gotten from my mom, because I was just not even having it. Like, I was just, no. So finally we get into a room, and into the emergency room, and I have my nurse, and they're taking care of me. They hooked me up to like a ton of IVs. They're taking a bunch of tests. That night I had so many tests done and so much blood work done. It was insane. They kept poking me. It wasn't fun. Like, a lot of times they took like, I got blood taken once, and then 5 minutes later, another girl comes in, and, like, I almost had a conniption because I was like, you all just took blood. Why do you need my blood again? And finally, like, the nurse was like, oh, no, they just came and took her blood. Like, she's not ready to be having blood taken again. And that girl was like, oh, I'm so sorry, because, like, I was about to have a mental breakdown. I don't remember, like, a lot of stuff from the ER, but I do remember I ended up having, like, a couple other tests done. Now, here's the little kicker. A week ago, like a week and a half ago, I had an ultrasound at this exact same hospital, okay? This exact same place. I went to the exact same room. I didn't have the same guy, so I don't know if that made a difference. But last time, my gallbladder was hunky-dory, perfectly fine. Alright, so this one old guy, he was really nice, but he was old. He takes me in for an ultrasound, and I'm like, well, I just had one of these. And he's talking to me, and he asks what they think that the problem might be. And I said that we were suspecting that it could be my gallbladder. I had a hydro scan, but they haven't got, like, they hadn't told me the results of that yet. So, which they had the results there because that's the hospital that I was, like, doing everything at. The ultrasound guy ended up saying, even though they're not supposed to say anything, but when we're leaving and going back to my room, he's like, I think that they're on the right track with your gallbladder. So I'm like, he must have saw something pretty interesting in there. So I go back and, remind you, I still, like, can't see and all this stuff, and they're, like, looking at my eye, and they're, like, all concerned. But I go back, and finally a doctor comes and tells me that my gallbladder is shot. Like, they looked at the ultrasound, and they finally got the scan back from the hydroscan, and my gallbladder was done, gone for, it was going to need removed. So the next thing that we ended up doing was, and this is all like 2 in the morning now. I didn't get there until like 6 or 7, I think, that evening. So now it's like 1 o'clock in the morning. I had another MRI done and like a bunch of stuff because they were scanning my brain because like my eye was doing something wacky and like I was just not thinking correctly. So then the next morning at like 5 o'clock in the morning, they had me going to see an eye doctor. Obviously, I could not walk. This is the whole issue here, another situation. Okay, so I could not walk, and these nurses had been helping me, like, to the bathroom and all this stuff this entire time that I had been there. So, and plus, I needed to go to the bathroom so much because they were just filling me full of IV liquids, and I just constantly kind of had to go to the bathroom, like, constantly. Alright, so now they're having me go to an eye doctor. There is a transfer lady that comes, and she is not nice. She comes in there and she's like, oh, can you not walk or like get up by yourself? And I was like, no, I really can't. Like, I've been having to have like 2 people help me. And she's like, oh, I got you, honey, I got you. So she helps me get up, and I have to back up and sit into this like wheelchair thing. And I turn around to get in this wheelchair thing, and she's like literally just holding me by my elbow, literally doing nothing to assist me. So I'm like trying to maneuver myself, and it did not work, and I ended up falling flat on my face, like over like this onto the bed, flashing the entire like ER place. Like, I just flashed everybody. So yeah, that was not fun. And literally she did nothing. She did not even like be like, oh my gosh, like, she didn't try to help. Literally the ER girls were like, oh my god, and like came in running and was like helping me into the chair. So then they let me go off with this lady who was like not friendly. She never said sorry. She never said a word to me like the entire time up to the eye doctor. I get up to the eye doctor, and the poor lady at the desk, because I'm not like capable enough to like give my information even, like I'm just so out of it. So she starts asking questions about me to this girl, and she ends up being like, I don't know, I just was told to bring her up here, and then leaves. And so then the poor like lady is like, oh my gosh, I'm just looking at her like she tried to kill me as well. But yeah, so finally they ended up taking me back. I think she just ended up looking up like my report because I couldn't, and like I couldn't tell her, and that girl just like bounced out. So finally I go back there. The eye doctor is like super nice because normally they have you get in another chair to do like the eye stuff. And I was like, I'm not getting out of this chair. I ain't doing it. It's not happening. I just fell trying to get in this chair. I'm not getting out and trying to get back in. So he ended up maneuvering his entire thing for me, got on the ground on his knees to like look at my eyes. He was like super nice. I have an appointment with him in July. That's the earliest I can get in for my eye. But I'm excited to see him. He was really nice. What they thought that I had was not what I ended up having, so he was kind of confused. Like, he told the neurologist that I did not have what they thought I might have had, and the neurologist, like, they didn't think that I had anything, like any masses or anything in my brain. There was like no brain damage per se, like from the MRI. I can't speak. From the MRI, they didn't find anything. So finally, I go from the eye doctor, and that same girl did not come and get me. It was some nice man, and he was super nice. But they end up taking me, you know, to go get a room. I get my own room because I'm going to be there a while. And I'm like, really? But the suckiest part is that I had to spend the entire night in the ER. And it's impossible to sleep in an ER, just so you know. But I finally got my room, and I was like, yes. So they roll me into a room. Alright. And I get into a bed. So this guy helps me into this bed. And I'm like nervous because I have to stand up. So I get into this bed, and I get laid down. Then these nurses, or the CNAs or whatever, come in, and they're like, this is the wrong room. We're going to have to move you to the room next to this room. And the guy was like, oh, I'm sorry. I'm like, I am not getting back out of this bed. I am not getting back in that chair. I ain't doing it. And so they tried to convince me to get up. And I was like, I'm not doing it. Like, I was having a conniption. And so they're like, I guess we could just move the beds and like move the empty bed into here and move her into that room. And I was like, yeah, you can, because I ain't getting up. So they moved me over there, and I had this like nice little old lady who never talked. And the only time she talked was like when she was yelling. But she didn't yell very often. It wasn't like one of those people. But she was super nice. I don't know why she was there though. She had to take a lot of insulin, so I'm guessing it was something to do with like being diabetic. But I don't know. I might miss some things, but this is just the main gist of the situation. This is already almost 30 minutes long, so I'm just going to try to get through this. They tell me that they have to get a hold of Dr. Rossi because he's going to have to decide whether or not he's going to take out the gallbladder, like, now, pretty much. They still really weren't sure of anything to do with my eye, my head, my walking situation. All they were worried about at this moment was my gallbladder issue. So finally, they come back in, and they're like, I was not expecting this. They come in, my doctor, and he's like, okay, so the plan is to move you to Morgantown. And I'm like, oh my gosh. So I go into like panic. Like, I'm just like, I wasn't showing it, but I was like panicking because I'm by myself. Like, Corona messed everything up, and I'm by myself, and like, I don't like that. So I was just like so nervous because, and I just was not planning on being there that long. Like, I just did not want to be there. And they just kept sticking me and poking me. By the way, they ended up putting another IV in. This is an important part of the story because later on it gets on my nerves. They ended up putting another IV in this arm. So I had one in my wrist and one in my arm on my left arm. And they come in and tell me that I'm going to have to be moved to Morgantown. But this is Monday. I got there Sunday, and then now it's Monday, and they're telling me all this information. So they finally get a call back from Dr. Rossi, and Dr. Rossi says, yes, the gallbladder needs taken out, like, immediately now. He's going to do it tomorrow morning. So Tuesday morning, I go and I have a good old surgery to get my gallbladder taken out. So they take it out, and I wake up, and I get back to my room, and literally, I'm like, give me food. So they bring me like an icy and stuff because they don't want you to eat like as soon as you have a surgery. But later that night I got a meal, like a full meal, and I was like living because I could actually eat it without throwing it up. I mean, I couldn't eat very much because obviously I still had my surgery, but like the point was is I could eat without dying. So that was exciting. Even though the next morning I get up and they tell me that they don't know if I could eat breakfast, and I'm like, but I had dinner last night. So I ended up like getting in a tiff with these people about that. But anyway, moving on. Finally, like that evening, because they were still waiting for my insurance to like go through or whatever, and apparently they're slow on getting people beds if, you know, your insurance ain't through, because people got to get paid. But finally the insurance goes through, and then they get an ambulance to me. And these ambulance guys were very nice, okay? I loved them. They were super cool. So we get in the ambulance, and this ambulance is smaller. Now you think that that would be a bad thing, but it's not. It's a good thing, because I'm up against a filing cabinet, like squished up against a cabinet. So when you go around curves and hit bumps and stuff, I don't feel like I'm flying all over the place. But basically that ride was like better than the ride from like my house to Charleston, because I ended up just sleeping. I woke up one time when they said we were like near Weston, but I didn't really know even where I was, because I've never been to Morgantown. And so I just went back to sleep, and I was going to want to like wake up to like, you know, see some views, because I had never been up there. But yeah, I didn't wake up until literally we were like going into the hospital. Like they were backing up to like get me out. So we get out, they check me in, all that good stuff, and I immediately go to a room. And I got a private room, which I guess most rooms or all rooms up there are private, but I don't know, it was pretty cool. So I get up there, and now we're pretty much just worried about what the crap is happening with my eyeball and my head and all that stuff. And the whole reason why they sent me up to Morgantown is because apparently they were not equipped to take care of me. Like they have a neuro team and stuff at General and in Charleston, but apparently they didn't want to mess with me because they really weren't sure at all what I had going on, so they wanted to like have more tests done on me to make sure I didn't have like severe brain damage or something. So I do a bunch of tests. Pretty much here's the lowdown on this whole situation. They end up doing a deeper MRI, which I don't really know how that works. They ended up doing it like the bed shook, and I think they were like scanning my spine and like my neck and stuff, and they ended up finding like a small itty bitty amount of damage behind my eyeball. You know what that's caused by? Vitamin deficiency. Yes, this entire situation ends up being all because I have a vitamin deficiency. So yeah, they end up taking a crap ton of my blood, and when I say a crap ton of my blood, I mean a crap ton of my blood. Like the girl who was coming in to take my blood had to go back out and ask if the report, like the orders for my blood were correct, because they took like 10 of like this size like tubes or whatever, like 10 or 12 of these things, like a ton of them. And the girl just kept asking like, if you feel dizzy, like I'll stop, just let me know. And then they were like shoving juice down my body afterwards because they didn't want me to like pass out or anything. I saw a lot of people. I didn't get up out of the bed like at all, and I had to have everybody help me to go to the bathroom, and it was just like a fun ordeal. Yeah, I seen like 3 different neurology people there, and like 4 different eye doctor people came and saw me, and then I had physical therapy people come and see me. And basically the entire time I was there, I was just moving my feet and my legs and like doing stuff with my hands, because they were just trying to make sure that like my reflexes and stuff were okay, and like I was still strong. Like I had to squeeze their hands and stuff. All that was good, and that's why they were like so confused by my eye, because they were looking at my eye and my eye was like in. And finally it ended up chilling and like going back to normal, but I was still seeing double with both eyes open. Like right now I see 2 of myself in the screen. I see 2 of everything. But if I have this eye covered, I only see 1, and same with this way. Like if I have this eye covered, I can see fine with this eye. It's just with both of them open at the same time, I see double, and it's like blurred. So yeah, they ended up telling me that it was vitamin deficiency, and yeah, it's basically my B2 or B1, whatever thiamine is. My thiamine levels were like extremely low, and that is the main vitamin that caused this whole ordeal. And like my inability to walk. I was not aware of how rare my condition was. If you look up thiamine vitamin deficiency, yeah, it is pretty rare, and it could cause a lot of problems, and I am lucky that I got to the hospital when I did, because they told me that if I had not came when I did, that they did not expect that I would have made it through the night, and if I would have, I could have caused like permanent memory loss or put myself into a coma or any of that sorts of things, which would have definitely been a lot harder to treat than what I was dealing with at that point in time. So I got there just in time. And yeah, so make sure if you have any of these problems to get to the hospital ASAP. they checked the level, and the level was, it's supposed to be up in the 80s. Your thiamine level is supposed to be up in the 80s. Mine was in the 20s. My vitamin levels were in the 20s. And I don't know why they were so surprised by this. I guess because they had never, like, had somebody that was, like, that bad off with their vitamins. But I had told them a million times that I had not eaten or drank in, like, 4 months. What are you not understanding here? But anyway, so they took, like, tons of blood every day, and it was, like, really annoying. But here's where the thing about, like, the IVs being in this arm comes in. So they had the IVs in this arm, my left arm, and they were doing the IVs through there, and they were taking all my blood out of my right arm. Okay, so eventually, like, they had stabbed me everywhere. My hand, my wrist, the inside, like, the regular part of my arm, and, like, in my elbow crease. They took blood from everywhere. I was bruised all the way up and down this arm. So eventually, they could not get any more blood out of this arm. And I had told the nurse when I got there, I did not, like, please do not mess with my IVs. I do not want to have to get another IV. Just leave them alone. I have 2 in my arm. Like, you don't need any more IVs. So she comes in, and she's like, well, I'm going to take the IV out of your wrist because it looks really uncomfortable, okay? So I'm like, oh, okay. She's trying to make it seem, like, all fun and stuff. So she takes it out, and then she's like, okay, I'm going to take this one out too. And I was like, I gave her, like, literally the worst stare ever. I was like, what do you mean? Because I know I'm not done with, like, an IV. And so she takes it out, and she's like, listen, we can't get any more blood out of your other arm, so we're going to have to put the IV in that arm, in your right arm, and then take blood out of your left. And so I was, like, fuming, but I was like, okay, whatever. But that annoyed me a lot, and a lot of things annoyed me, and they lie to you, like, about everything whenever you, like, I don't know, they must have known, which I did tell them that I had, like, severe anxiety about stuff, so that's probably why they didn't, like, tell me information. But I ended up having to go, like, get, I called it shock therapy just to be dramatic, but it's just, like, a shock test where they, like, check your nerves and stuff, and, like, they put needles in, like, your arms and legs. And they lied to me about that. They did not even tell me it had anything to do with shocking or needles. They were just like, oh, it's just to test your nerves, and just let me go on thinking, like, it was going to be hunky-dory and nothing was going to be happening, and then I ended up getting shocked and stabbed with needles, and I was, like, not excited about it. And then I did end up saying something to my nurse. I was like, you lied to me, and she was like, oh, I didn't know you didn't know. I was like, I told you I didn't know. But whatever. But anyway, overall, the experience was, like, okay in the hospital. I mean, like, I was just nervous about the fact that I thought I was going to have to get a spinal tap, but they ended up not doing it, and I was, like, so happy because they ended up finding out that it was all vitamin deficiency from where my gallbladder was screwing with my body, and I couldn't eat or drink, and so, therefore, I had vitamin deficiency.
This is basically just, like, a forewarning for anyone having gastric sleeve surgery or weight loss surgery. Just make sure to keep up on top of your doctor. If something's not right, let them know, because it's probably your gallbladder. Just make sure if you have your gallbladder, be really, really diligent on keeping up with how you're eating and drinking, because it can get bad, and yeah, I don't want that for you.
But I guess that's pretty much all. I went in on a Sunday to General by ambulance, and then I left out. My mom and dad and Dalton came and got me on the following Sunday. So I was in hospitals for a week. I was at General for 3 days and at Morgantown Ruby Memorial for 4 days. And yeah, so it was an okay experience. They are really lacking on, like, hygiene at both hospitals, I guess maybe from the corona, but I don't know, if, like, not their personal hygiene, it's just, like, they don't offer you, like, they don't offer showers, like, even if you ask, they kind of just, like, let it go, and, like, they didn't bring me, like, a toothbrush or toothpaste. I didn't brush my teeth for a week. It was gross. And yeah, like, my hair was disgusting. I had to, like, beg, like, this poor guy to brush my hair, and he spent 2 hours. My hair was so tangled from it being up in a bun for, like, 4 days and literally done nothing with. He spent, like, 2 hours of his time brushing my hair out. So, shout out to that guy out there in the world. But, yeah. Then I came home, and I had a walker. They gave me a walker to use. And that helped me like stabilize myself. And I don't know why they didn't do that in the first place, since I just felt like I was like swaying. But they gave me a walker, and I used it for a couple days until I started being able to walk by myself. Now I can walk by myself. Go me. I still get like wore out really fast if like I spend a lot of time walking, so I have to just like move up to that. But right now I'm just waiting. I do not have any appointments until the mid-July, so yeah. But overall I'm okay. I feel a lot better. Thanks to all of you who like talked to my mom and like messaged me and sent like prayers and stuff to me. It was appreciated. It was a rough time, and it was just like even harder being like away from like my mom and dad and Dalton, and like, you know, it was sucky. But now I'm okay, and I can eat and drink perfectly fine. This video is really long and probably all over the place, but I just wanted to give the gist of why I have been gone and like the story on that whole situation of what happened. And so thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye!